I guess technically their project is wrapping up, but their work is still going strong. So I will turn the mic over to you guys.
Okay, Helen, do you want to say something first, or you want me to just dive in?
No, just dive in.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm Michelle Fraboni, as you can see on my Zoom name. I am faculty in the elementary education department, along with Helen and Ashley. And Melissa, if you can go forward. Thank you. So just a little bit about who we are. We are teacher educators, and we have been teaching and advising students who want to become elementary teachers in public schools for many, many years. Helen longer than I have been, but we've been working with students in many different capacities in terms of teaching them, advising them. And in doing so over the years, we've noticed that the interest in becoming elementary education majors by underrepresented minority students at Queens College increased in 2012 from 36% in 2012, sorry, to 51% in 2017. And then we discovered that a disproportionate number were leaving the major. They would take some of the prerequisite courses, but then leave and never actually finish the major, so that it turned out there were only 22% of those people who were interested, underrepresented minorities, who were actually graduating with their teaching certification. So our goal was to find ways to support these students to help them persist in the major and complete the undergraduate program. So I think that, oh, and in particular, transfer students who make up 81% of our major. So, and I'm not sure what the latest statistic is. I think it's still pretty close to 81% transfers in the major. So we can go forward, Melissa. So we started knowing that we needed to do something. So we had a sense of what the students needed in terms of advising them academically. But we also knew that there was a lot of research on feeling like you belonged at a school, at a college, in a major. And there's a lot of research on that, in that students who actually feel like they belong persist more in the major. And there were a lot, we decided to, we tried out some, sorry, I'm a little discombobulated. We had a couple of pilot projects where we were engaging transfer students in these communities of practice. So these were opportunities for students who were still at community colleges, some of our feeder schools, LaGuardia and Queensboro, or new transfer students, to engage with Queens College students who are already there, and to work on different sorts of programs to help them find community and also work on their digital literacy and their academic writing skills. So moving forward with this project, we had these wonderful connections already with community colleges in terms of students participating as well as faculty. We also had support from our administration, the provost and the VP of student enrollment, and we really had this network of support when we shared with them this idea of creating a community that would have regular events and engage students in talking with one another and meeting with faculty. So that's where we started. It's the very beginning of transitions to teaching. And I'm going to, I think we can go forward unless you want to add anything else, Helen?
No, we can go, I think we can go forward here. Thanks, Michelle. So in moving to implement this program, Transitions to Teaching, we felt from the beginning that in contrast to other programs that sort of administer and deliver services to students, we wanted the students to be involved in shaping what the experience was going to be from the beginning. And so our first action, other than assembling our staff, was to establish a student advisory council. And we did that within the first month of the project. And we started out by asking faculty in the program to recommend students they had had in their classes who they felt would have particular interests and motivation to be involved. And actually before that, the first meeting, Michelle and I had sort of mapped out our plan of activities for the first semester. We took that to the first meeting with the students and we got totally shot down in a nice way, but they were looking for different kinds of activities. They wanted a bit, I think what we had envisioned was more of an academic program, and what they really wanted was the community piece, and a community where they would be talking to one another and sharing and having contact with students at different points in the program and graduates of the program. And so that really became the frame for everything that we've done since then. We have sort of a tight time frame here. And so part of what we decided to do in preparing this presentation for today was to have some of the students speak directly to you, because their voices have really framed the program. I'm going to say one more thing, and then I'm going to turn it over to my video clip, the first video clip, which is from Stacy, who's really one of the founders of the program. But one of the things that I think in terms of centering student voices that's been important for us is that we have had these regular meetings with students in addition to informal communications throughout the project. And our plans for year 2 changed from what we had set up in our model because of those conversations. And one of the things that we learned in the summer between year 1 and year 2 was that as students were getting further in the program, their academic coursework, they wanted different things from Transitions to Teaching. So whereas when they first started, they wanted a lot of help with course selection and how to navigate the system. As they moved along, they were more interested in hearing about what's really happening in the schools, what am I getting myself into, and what's going on in the profession. And so we shifted our focus a bit to include more of that kind of experience. Now I'm going to introduce Stacy Jackson, who is currently teaching in a New York City school because she graduated. But Stacy began with us at that very first meeting in August of 2018. At that time, she was halfway through the certification program in our department. And she, as you'll see, is an extremely thoughtful and articulate and dynamic person. And she started out again looking for some basic information from the program, and over time has taken an increasingly prominent leadership role in the work that we do. And Melissa, if you could put her on, she'll explain it. She'll describe it better than I can.
Okay, great. Let me know if you can hear this, but hopefully this will work.
Hi, my name is Stacy Jackson, and I am a proud member of the Queens College Transitions to Teaching community. I began my college career at Queensborough Community College, where I obtained my associate's degree in 2 years. Then I transferred into Queens College to continue my coursework for childhood education grades 1 through 6. I had my first interaction with the Transitions to Teaching community while I was a student in the professional sequence. I was offered the opportunity to share my insight as a member of the Student Advisory Council. I was able to discuss some of the challenges that I had as a transfer student because information was something that I always felt that I got last minute or I didn't get it at all. And that was a big frustration of mine. So I was pleasantly surprised when Professor Davis and Dr. Johnson offered me the opportunity to give candid, honest feedback. And they wanted me to be as honest as possible because they wanted to improve the program for students that would be coming in after me. They also wanted to build a community, a dynamic for education majors to be able to interact with each other in a meaningful way that we could look to each other for information, look to each other for resources, or help navigate each other through a lot of the challenging deadlines and many requirements needed to not only graduate from Queens College, but also to become a New York State licensed teacher. I fell in love with the program. I wanted to continue working with them. I was invited to become a moderator at one of the panelist sessions where 4 teachers offered invaluable information and shared their experiences about their day-to-day workings inside of the New York City Department of Education's classroom. We learned so much about how to become an effective teacher in terms of what strategies to use, what theorists should we model after. But the day-to-day workings is information that you only can get from someone in the field. And I was happy that I was able to absorb everything up like a sponge. And as the moderator, I was able to facilitate the conversation and ask follow-up questions and gain more clarity and gain ideas about things I wanted to do in my classroom. After graduating with my license, I did not get hired right away. I became a substitute teacher and I was working, taking over classrooms in the middle of the year, gaining the trust of students, parents, and other faculty within the building. I was so surprised when the Transitions to Teaching community asked me to speak as a panelist. They wanted me to share my information and become a resource for those upcoming teachers. So I shared my information on the process of becoming a sub and all the factors you have to consider when you're taking over an already established classroom. And I was happy that I was able to be that resource for those people in the audience. I still continue to work with the Transitions to Teaching community. In fact, this summer, I was a intern group leader where I helped look over a group of students who were providing unbiased evaluation of the effectiveness of the Transitions to Teaching community. And I was, again, someone that could be viewed as a resource where I could fill in gaps where maybe the paper didn't always let you know everything that happened at the event, or, you weren't clear about something. So I was able to make a lot of misconceptions, go away and make things a little bit more clear. And I was able to fine-tune my craft as a educator because I had to give clear, concise, direct feedback to college students. And as a teacher, you have to be able to offer feedback, and it has to be valuable, and it has to be clear, and it has to be direct. And that practice over the summer has helped me already in my virtual September classroom that I'm in now, because feedback is always going to be a part of my life as an educator. I'm so grateful and humbled that I've been a part of this phenomenal program here at Queens College, and I hope it remains a part of the Queens College education infrastructure because it is very necessary and it's very needed. And I really don't know how I would have made it through without this program. Thank you.
So I think that in talking, Stacy mentioned the internship program, which is something that we did, that Ashley and I implemented this past summer in response to some of what, I'm sorry, no, that's right. Some of the experiences that students were having, and in response to our need to meaningfully provide meaningful evaluation data for writing up our final report as our funding was ending. And we felt that one piece that we really wanted to include was, again, the student voice. And so the internship was an opportunity for students to develop their skills and give us a different kind of data than we could get from the measures and assessments that we've been doing. And I'm going to turn it over to Ashley, who was the project director for the summer internship and knows it better than anyone else. Ashley?
Thanks. Could we just go forward on the slides?
Hi.
So as Helen mentioned, the internship really grew out of the continued desire to have student voice be a part of the entire transitions to teaching process. So we really wanted students to play a role in the evaluation process. The internship also reinforced this idea of community of practice by giving the students an opportunity to engage in professional development, having exposure to the evaluation process and writing a formal evaluation report, getting feedback about their writing mechanics, but also feedback about what kind of content belongs in an evaluation report. So there were 4 groups of 3 to 4 students, and each group had a group leader. I was a group leader for 2 of the groups, and the other 2 groups were led by 2 members of the Student Advisory Council, Stacy, who you just got introduced to, and Jesse, who you will meet later. And there were also weekly group meetings on Google Meet. So again, this community of practice, we would meet as a whole internship group, and then there was also the opportunity to meet in small groups and just foster that connection, foster that community. So first, I want to highlight Lillian's voice, and she's the other one. She's actually reading a part of her evaluation report, which gives you an idea about the kind of product that the students produced during the internship period.
Hi, my name is Lillian Bayron. I am currently a graduate student at Queens College studying bilingual special education for birth to 2, and I'll be reading some excerpts from my paper on the contemporary issues events for transitions to teaching. The Teach Us All event demonstrated what contemporary issues events should look like and follow the program's purpose. According to the announcement, this documentary being shown reveals powerful lessons through case studies in Little Rock, New York City, and Los Angeles. This documentary seeks to investigate how far we have come or not come in the education system. This would be a great starter event to summarize what contemporary issues are and how they are visible in education. This documentary tackles important historical moments in education and how they closely relate to issues that come up today in our schools. There should definitely be more movie nights and documentaries shown with follow-up discussion time. In the materials, it said that students really impacted from the Teach Us All film event, and it received great feedback. Being able to see contemporary issues through film will educate and expose students to what is going on behind the closed doors of the education system. When planning transitions to teaching events, have guest speakers discuss what they see in the classroom that their students may face. This will bring the issues to light and have contemporary issues actually be the primary discussion at the event. The elementary education students will get a real sense of what teaching is all about and the struggles it may entail. Overall, there seems to be a lot of missing pieces in regards to what these contemporary issues in the education program overall. Whether it be presented in a class setting, a workshop, or an event, there needs to be more opportunities for students to be exposed to contemporary issues in education. There is a lot that needs to be uncovered that many people do not realize is going on until they work in the field. Transitions to teaching can really make a great impact for students by planning these contemporary issues events accordingly. Thanks.
So the transitions to teaching events, we divided into 4 categories, and each group evaluated a specific category of events. They carried out the evaluation by looking over all of the materials and documents related to that specific category of events. And so, as you can see from what Lillian shared, we really got valuable feedback from the students about how they experienced the content of the events, and the structure of the events and the timing of the events. And so the contemporary issues events was one of the categories of events where we kind of had a difficult time trying to nail down what contemporary issues were and what it would look like and what kind of topics students would be interested in. And so we got some really rich feedback from the students who were evaluating the contemporary issues group. And then Jessica's video, I think, really highlights the collaborative aspect of the internship and the professional development, the degree to which the students had to rely on each other and give each other feedback and support each other in working on this type of writing that was very new to them. And so if we could hear from Jessica.
Hello, my name is Jessica Chen, and this summer I was an evaluator for Transitions to Teaching, and here is an excerpt from my evaluation report. Should Transitions to Teaching continue as an education program at Queens College? And no doubt the answer to that answer is yes. Transitions to Teaching is a program dedicated to helping prospective educators and building a community that can't be found anywhere else on campus. Transitions to Teaching also allows students to feel closer to Queens College. Transitions to Teaching welcomes their arms to everyone and anyone who is in need of help or just a place to go to. The program has gathered not only current students from QC, but also alumni. Transitions to Teaching began with just trying to help transfer students, but it is more than just a program. Being a part of TTT is like being a part of a family. Going in, you don't know what and who to expect, but you come out with long-lasting relationships and a foundation to reflect on. This evaluation report would not have been possible without my team members. I started off strong for the first two sections with phrasing sentences objectively and getting straight to the point. However, for the third and fourth section, I started writing in subjective language because that's what I thought the agenda was. After receiving emails and guidelines with more detail, along with the feedback I received from my team, I was able to change my thoughts into objective statements backed up with evidence. Without this collaborative effort, none of this would have been a smooth process. We all shared our thoughts and opinions on each other's works, and from there we grew together. This collaborative effort also showed us our similarities and differences in thoughts. And just like one of the initial goals of TTT, this builds a foundation for community. In the end, this collaborative effort is more than just writing a report. It is about learning how to evaluate like a professional and work together as a team to come up with the ideas. Like the saying goes, there is no I in team. Thank you.
So I promise that we did not ask them to say those things or tell them to write those things. And so I think that those two videos and those two clips from the students really give a real, good picture of what students were able to get out of the internship, professionally, and then what we were able to get out of the internship in terms of real good, honest feedback and evaluation of the TTT program. Unless Helen or Michelle wants to add anything about the internship.
No, I think the students speak for.
Yeah, me too. We can go forward.
Hello, my name is
Lillian Bayron. I am.
Okay. Is this you, Helen, or me?
This is you.
This is me. Okay. So with all of this, we had been having face-to-face events, some of them very large. We would have over 100 students. And in fact, on March 25th, we actually, you can see on our, on the little slide, we had an event planned. We had already been receiving RSVPs, and we had to scramble to figure out what we were going to do. As it happened, the event was going to be about self-care and taking care of yourself. And so we were able to quickly, with our presenter, change the focus and not really change the focus, but change the way we were going to be offering things. And so we did this is unbelievable. We did so sorry, this is working from home, dueling meetings, I apologize. So we got together, we had a little bit of tech support, and we used a Google Meet, and we had students join us online. And we used a couple of Mentimeters. If you don't know what Mentimeter is, it is like Poll Everywhere or any of the other polling softwares. And we asked them about the stresses that they were dealing with right on that day, March 25th. And you can see that they were stressed about many things, and then how they were managing stress. Anyway, it turned out to be a pretty good event. Mm-hmm. And if you could go forward, Melissa. So actually, you know, initially this was imagined as a hybrid program where we would do face-to-face and online, but we were finding that we weren't getting much engagement online with the students. But of course, like I said, we had to adapt. And so in addition to holding some events online, we were sending out positive messages through email and putting them out on our Instagram account. You can see one of the examples here. It was a thought for the week, and it was something inspiring, and well, we felt inspiring, and I think many of the students did too. Helen worked very, very hard to put these together. We also had weekly conversation hours where students could drop in just to chat, and Ashley was there to take care of that and to talk with students. So that was how we actually expanded and adapted to deal with COVID, just like everyone else has. And just as a brief aside, we actually had an event yesterday, which was online, and we had 65 students show up from Queensborough and LaGuardia. And we were saying we've actually found a little bit of opportunity in forcing ourselves to move online. So you can go to the next slide.
We've been talking a lot in our team meetings and stuff about what we've learned, what's meaningful to share in terms of people who might be considering doing some kind of related work in their own setting. And I think one of the first points that stood out to me, which is something that Melissa and Charlene said to us at our first annual check-in. And at that point, we were really struggling with focusing a lot of our time and resources on recruitment for individual events. And it's very challenging for our students to attend, particularly the in-person events, because we are a commuter campus, because most of our students are working and/or have other family responsibilities in addition to school. And as students go further in the program, the coursework and field work become more and more of a full-time commitment. So for all those reasons, we were not having we had not come up with a reliable strategy for getting a really large group together. Sometimes we did, it happened, sometimes it didn't. And what Melissa and Charlene said to us was to worry less about the number of participants and more about how the participants were engaging in what went on. And I think that that sort of freed us up in a way that was really important for us. So we started going with our gut and with our conversations with students and with some other key players that I'll talk about in a minute. But I think that what happened in making that shift was that we wound up with a core of students who really have a very strong commitment to the idea of this community. People like Stacy, people like Jessica, who joined. She was a student in my class, and she just stood out to me as somebody that I thought would respond to this kind of situation. And also she was serving that sort of mentoring function for half a dozen students who sat around her in class. And I thought, you know, she's already doing community work. So, but what I'm saying is that for students like this, we have now a core of people who check in, and we're checking in all of August and early September with Michelle and with me to say, what's going on, what's happening next. There are students, and that core really becomes the base for the sustainability of the program. Because if you have a few faculty and a few administrators who are with buy-in, the other essential element is that you have to have some of the real stakeholders, the students, who have that commitment as well. And their enthusiasm and their engagement really is what helps it grow. I've spoken already about how what students were looking for in the community changed as their place in the program changed, so I won't belabor that. We also found that we were able to really encourage ongoing connections between participants. And Stacy talked about what it meant to her to see herself move forward in becoming increasingly a leader and a spokesperson. And it's an important part of developing professional identity, which is, again, something that's very critical in retention in school and retention in the profession, because the dropout rate, the burnout rate for new teachers is incredibly high. But I think that I'm hoping, and this is obviously a long-term research question we would have to pursue, that the students who are having these experiences have a little more grounding in their engagement as teachers. And Michelle's just talked about the nature of the hybrid community and how that changed over time. I think that we also changed the way that we approached it. And we found repeatedly that using the Mentimeters at our activities, our events, was a way of sort of cutting across the distance, the physical distance, because students were seeing their responses go up in real time and being echoed by responses of other students. And that kind of connection is a real connection, even as it's not the same as sitting next to one another, but it's an important connection. And so what I'd like to do now is to just turn it over to, well, introduce first Jessie Alejandro. She, like Stacy, was a member of the Student Advisory Council from the very beginning. When we began, she had not yet applied to the program. She just graduated this spring and is entering, well, she'll tell you, she's now in the master's program in special ed. But she, throughout, has been a really active participant and had very strong feelings about what needed to be provided, particularly for transfer students, to help them be successful, partly because of the negative experiences she had had as a transfer student. So Melissa, if you could click on Jessie, please.
Hi, my name is Jessica Alejandro, and I became a founding member of the Student Advisory Council in the summer of 2018 as I was preparing to apply to the EECE professional sequence. Being part of this program has been an incredible experience that has allowed me to help my peers figure out where they are, where they need to be, and how to get there on their path to becoming New York State certified educators. As a transfer student from LaGuardia Community College, I know all too well about how stressful, overwhelming, and hectic the transfer process can be. But transitions to teaching changed that for so many students. It eased the process by supporting students and giving them the guidance they need from the staff that have been involved in this program from the start. From the notes in the field events to the academic advisement events, Transitions to Teaching has allowed students to stay connected through a community of future educators with one common goal: to be the best educators their future students need them to be. It has been an absolute pleasure to be part of this program over the past 2 years and to become a support system for students who are in the same position I was once in. This program has allowed me to become a mentor, an advocate, and a friend, and has allowed me to acquire and sharpen the skills I need to become the greatest future educator my future students need me to be. I look forward to continuing my work with undergraduate students as I continue my graduate studies here at Queens.
Thanks. Michelle, Ashley, do you want to add anything before we move on? Or okay. So Melissa, can we go to the next slide, please?
My name is Jessica.
Thanks. So again, for those of you who might be considering doing some related work in your settings, we wanted to sort of give you a general sense of what we felt the essential components were that we used in developing our work. And the first three things are really that I'm going to talk about are the key ones. The first is the project team. There needs to be a few individuals who are going to be engaged in the work consistently over time. And Michelle, Ashley, and I had already been engaging in related work. We had 2 earlier pilot projects trying to facilitate the transfer experience. And so that was sort of a core group. And then we had, we were fortunate to have the coordinator of the undergrad elementary ed program also on the team. And we were joined by another faculty member in elementary ed who just has a very strong commitment to the well-being of her students and who gets to know them really well, and is a very beloved faculty member. So we had that core of people from the college or not the administrative end, but the department end. And we were able to find a group of students who were really committed to helping to build this community. There were some students like Stacy and Jesse who were engaged throughout the whole 2 years of the funding. There were other students who cycled in and cycled out. And some students were involved at the beginning, and then sort of we didn't hear from them for a year, and then they popped up again this spring when we were online. And a few of them were in the internship this summer. But the importance of having a core group of the population that you're going to be serving who are involved in an ongoing way. It can't be stressed enough. The other group that for us was really essential was what I've called here the Community Advisory Board. These were peers and also administrators from both within the college and outside the college. And as Michelle mentioned earlier, we already had well-established relationships with our two main feeder campuses, Queensborough and LaGuardia community colleges. And we had faculty and some administrators or program heads from both of those campuses who were part of our advisory board. We also had the VP for Enrollment and Retention, who has been an incredible support throughout our work in this area. And he was able to give us access to resources that we couldn't have parlayed ourselves. For example, when one of the members of the community of our advisory board from Queensborough said, well, why can't my students come to some of these events you're holding as well, since they're getting ready to transfer? We went to the VP and talked with him about it, and he was able to provide transportation, a QC shuttle bus that picked the students up from LaGuardia, picked students up from Queensborough, brought them to campus. He arranged for campus tours for those who hadn't already had one, and they had a shuttle that took them back. He also gave us access to the college communication system, so that when we wanted to send out notices and flyers, we could just put it into the system and specify the population of students we wanted to receive it, and they all got the invitations. The associate provost for student success also provided incredible support throughout the project. One thing that she did was to attend almost every meeting that we held, face-to-face and online. And having students see that there was that kind of commitment and interest made a big impression. They commented on that. It meant something for them to know that they were important enough for her to take time for these meetings. We also had on this board, other faculty members, and we had a graduate of our program who's currently a principal of an elementary school in Queens. And he did our first Notes from the Field event, which was just this incredibly moving talk about how he went from being an undergrad who wasn't exactly sure what he wanted to do to winding up as principal, and also giving students tips on what they should do when they went for a job interview. So those are the really sort of essential resources that fed the development of this project. In addition, we discovered, partly through the guidance of people like the VP and the Associate Provost, that there were a lot of services available to us in terms of campus structures. Things like the Office of Academic Advisement, admissions, counseling, financial aid, some of these offices sent representatives when we held advisement events, and they gave out information to students. Resources in terms of administrative helped us with institutional research, reprographics, transportation, technology, communications. These are what I'm trying to say, is that what we've realized is that a lot of what we've been able to do wound up being possible because we found out how to access things that exist rather than having to create them ourselves. And so that we could focus on the work with the students. And what we wanted to do, and I'm not sure exactly how many minutes are left to us, because I know we started late and I don't want to make us later, but whatever, Melissa, I'll follow your guidance. But we set up—
Yes, Helen, we are running out of time. So if you want to—
Okay, so if—
spend 2 more minutes and we'll wrap maybe.
So this is a chart that we set up in terms of showing you the resources that we feel we used to build our program. And then suggesting that you might think about what's available to you. If you want to do this work, where can you turn? What things can you count on that already exist that you won't have to create, so that you're not starting in a vacuum? Michelle has created a handout version of this chart for everyone, and she just put the link in the chat, or Melissa did, somebody did. So we're hoping that this will be useful to you in your thinking. And then we just wanted to, if there's time for a couple of questions, fine. And if not, feel free to email us. We'd be glad to talk with you about the specifics of your situation. And finally, just one last little thing. Melissa, if you can go to we wanted to say thank you. The students in this photograph is the group from one of our events, the student discussion facilitators and advisory council members. And we just happened to think that was a nice way to give you a sense of our group. And Charlene and Melissa have been just incredibly supportive and really helpful in substantive ways in pushing our thinking forward on how we do this work. So we thank you.
Thank you so much, Helen, Ashley, and Michelle. I hope this session was helpful, and we'll obviously record it and we can send out the handout to people and provide a way for them to reach out if people have follow-up questions. I think what's so compelling for us about this project is really the importance for transfer students of finding their academic home. And so I feel like you guys have really accomplished that in an incredible way. So anyway, I will say thank you and give everyone your 5-minute break before our next breakout session starts. So you can stay in this room if you're interested in I think it's the Lehman breakout session. If you need the agenda with the other Zoom links, I can repost that in the chat, or you can go back to the main room and they can also help you get your bearings from there. But thank you so much for joining us in the session.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Yeah, take care.
Thank you, guys. I think there's a breakout starting. If you want to stay for this one, you're obviously welcome to just hang out in here. But I think it's going to be at 10:30, so you have a few minutes of get water, walk around your apartment, whatever you need to do.
The old coffee and snack break in between conference sessions. Yeah.
Exactly. Hey, Chris, how are you?
Good. How are you, Melissa?
Good. This whole thing is quite the.
You guys are doing a great job, though.
Quite the setup.
Yeah. This is working out really well. I wasn't exactly sure what to expect, how it would work with the jumping around, but
I'm not sure either. I feel like because I've also been in here, like Rebecca and Alex were trying to like navigate people wandering in and out of the main room. So I know what that entailed. But anyway, I do have your PowerPoint on my desktop. If you rather I share my screen, or I think you can also share your screen, whichever is easiest for you guys.
Richard, you're going to
probably
share
my
yours, right?
screen. Yeah, probably makes sense.
Okay, cool. I am going to step away. I need to circulate around, do a lap around my apartment for a minute, and I will. I think we're gonna. Yeah. I think they told everyone we're gonna start at 10:30, so you got 5 minutes if you need to stretch or do anything.
All right. Thanks, Melissa.
All right. Let me open this up.
Just make sure you have the ability to share, Richard.
Yeah, I think I do. Yeah, I do. Is it showing as a slideshow?
Yep. Looks good.
Now it is. Yep.
All right. I'm going to take a step away also. I'll be right back.
Yep.
Cass.
Hi, Chris. How are
Good
you?
to see you. Doing well.
Nice to see you too. I'm excited for this session.
We're excited about what we're doing with this work at Lehman. It's been really great.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, at some point in the future, I'd love to catch up with you. You might have heard I'm talking with Lexa and Martin about some of the transfer work too. So.
Yeah, and I spoke with Lori yesterday too about some Kara stuff. So we're like ships passing in the night.
Exactly. Well, I'm glad you talked to Lori. That's awesome. So yeah, we won't take up time here, but it would be great to catch up.
Definitely. I'll send you an email.
Okay.
Okay, I think we will get started to keep on track with our schedule. Welcome everybody to this breakout session. I'm happy to be here with Richard and Chris and Yvette from Lehman College, who will be speaking about their 2019 CCIF project. So they were really just getting started this year, and we're throwing a lot of curveballs, but we've been really impressed with the work that they've been able to do through a lot of different challenges, but also some really amazing results for students or preliminary movement on behalf of really the whole college. So I will kick it over to you guys, and thanks again.
Thanks, Melissa. Morning, everybody, and welcome to our session. We're excited to be able to spend some time with everybody this morning discussing our Race to the Finish Line project. You know, we hope to share some of our successes and our obstacles with you, and really discuss how a project that started off with the intention of serving a very small niche group of students has rapidly evolved into a project that is touching in some way nearly all of our undergraduate students at the moment. To introduce ourselves really quickly, my name is Richard Finger. I'm the Senior Director of Enrollment Management at Lehman, and I'll let Chris introduce himself.
Chris Bonacore, Director of Student Success Initiatives.
And Yvette.
Good morning. I'm Yvette Rosario, and I'm the Senior Registrar at Lehman College.
Okay, so today we hope to take you through a bit of a review of year one, talk about some of the ways that we maximized our opportunities, both our existing and new opportunities, talk about the unique way in which we've leveraged this project to maximize New York State aid, talk about our TAP recovery program, which is closely aligned with this project, share some lessons learned, and talk about next steps as we are in year two, but that we're working on now in year two.
So as we thought about what we wanted to do when we were initially submitting for this project, we thought about the kinds of challenges that Lehman students face while they're attempting to complete their studies. And we knew that they were unaware of alternative mechanisms for earning course credits. So this initiative maximizes the use of existing alternative credit accumulation opportunities, while also expanding additional credit accumulation options. Our initial options included credit by departmental exam, cooperative education, and credit for life experience. And we felt like that wasn't enough, and that only served such a small part of our population. So this project really has helped us to expand those options, as Richard said, to nearly every student, and you'll learn more about that in the slides to come.
So during year one of the things that we learned quickly was that the scope of students that we needed to serve had to change. We initially wrote the grant to look at students with 110 or more credits, to see what students were missing elective credits as a way to help them complete their studies and accelerate their studies more rapidly, similar to what we heard the keynote speaking about this morning. However, we quickly realized that by looking at just that small population of students, most of those students have probably spent semesters accumulating open elective credits, which could have been earned in alternate ways. Take, for example, the fact that our students on a very basic level, 60% of them speak a language other than English at home, and we were not capitalizing on the most basic way to earn some credits, which is by having them take the CLEP exams to show their proficiency. So our change in the students that we served and broadening the population really had no impact on the program goals, since the goals always were to expand credit acceleration opportunities for students. Then COVID hit, and COVID was really interesting for us because all of the testing centers, which was primarily in year one, how we were going to engage students in accelerating their credit accumulation, closed. So we had to really get creative in terms of what opportunities that we had to create internally for our students. And we're going to discuss some of that throughout the presentation. But COVID, in a sense, though, was a blessing in disguise in that it brought the campus community together in a way that we haven't seen before, that everybody was committed to ensuring student success, in particular students that wanted to continue their studies. So it's really brought about a bit of a culture change, a willingness for faculty and administration to come together to discuss new opportunities for students, and at the same time, the ability for us to focus on helping students complete their degrees in a more deliberate manner. We've seen an increased interest among our students, among our staff, among our advisors in helping students achieve these initiatives. I think our most recent outreach to students yielded over 300 students who were interested in learning more information about some of the programs that we had available.
Good morning. So we've capitalized on some of our existing CPL options, such as the AP examinations. We are ensuring that our students, that these exams are reflected on the students' CUNY First records, and that they're receiving the appropriate test credit for these exams. There was a small gap before this initiative started, and we've really tightened this up via this initiative. We also, as Richard mentioned, we capitalized on CLEP exams by offering this, by offering CLEP courses to award credits for all languages, not just a few that we first began with. We offer these exams at one of our sites called Lehman, CUNY on the Concourse, and however, due to COVID, it's been closed. This site, though, was able to negotiate discounted testing rates with 2 local test sites, one in the Bronx and one in Manhattan, which allows students to restart their CLEP exams, because we really want to ensure that students that speak another language receive this type of credit. Red Cross, we've been able to successfully offer these 1 and 2 credit certificates to our graduating seniors so that they can graduate in a timely fashion. However, with this grant, we've been able to expand this to other students, and we have really good numbers that we will share with you in later slides. The PLA portfolio is currently only offered to our adult degree program. However, CUNY has a new CPL policy, which we will touch on a little later, that allows for this option to be expanded to other students who will definitely benefit from submitting these portfolios, as our student population in the adults and what we consider adults is over 25 is expanding as well. Credit by department is an option that departments have to grant graduating seniors a credit. But not many departments use this platform, but the Department of Economics and Business has articulated a number of equivalent DSST exams, which our students are receiving credit for. Chris will expand on this in the next slide, but these are one of the new options we inserted in our existing CPL opportunities. Another option that we really expanded was on FEMA. And Chris will also speak about FEMA in this next slide. So I'm gonna hand it over to you, Chris. Sorry if I touch a little bit on your slide.
No worries, thanks for that. So the DSST before this program, we probably had some drips and drabs of students that came in that maybe got credit every now and then for DSST if they found the right person, but we really formalized it. We had our departments make evaluation determinations, and we programmed equivalencies in our system so that it's awarded consistently and accurately whenever students do submit these exams. So CLEP, we had always accepted CLEP in the past before the program, but we never accepted foreign language CLEP. So this program allowed us to really start accepting the French, the Spanish, the German for credit for students, so that they can accelerate their credit completion. So FEMA, FEMA courses are through, they get their credits through Fredericks Community College, and they take these different certifications, which are really great opportunities. And they submit these requirements to Frederick Community College, who translate them into credits, and then we can award the credits. So we're really promoting that option. The COVID certificate is really interesting. We worked with our health sciences dean and chair to look at 3 different initially free certifications that students can complete, and we can award them 1 credit of a HEA elective, which is a health services elective credit that they can get towards their 120. And then the business consultancy program is a partnership between Lehman and real estate development firm, where students are engaged in experiential and classroom learning activities about the industry. So these are all part of our menu of new opportunities for students.
Hey, Chris, before you move on, can you review what the different acronyms mean for anyone who might be unfamiliar?
Sure. So let me remember, we are so knee deep in these acronyms, I have to remind myself too what even some of them mean. The DSST is the Department of Defense. It's a military, and Richard jump in, it's like a military exam basically. CLEP is the college language exam, college language equivalency proficiency. FEMA is the federal, we all know what FEMA is, federal emergency, yeah. COVID, I don't think I have to define COVID. Right. But yeah, the DSST is like another exam option basically besides CLEP.
Which is open to both civilians and military.
And this is one of the.
It's formerly Dante's. It's formerly Dante's too. If anyone knows what Dante's is, it used to be called that.
And one of the departments, as I mentioned, has been expanding on these DSST exams and offering them to their students, and in turn, providing them with course credits.
Okay, so as part of our discussion, one of the things that has happened is this whole idea of reimagining credit accumulation. And we've seen this happen in a number of unique ways at the college. In our freshman seminar courses, in our freshman block courses, one of the things that has happened pretty much organically as a way to ensure that students were maximizing their credits in the first semester is that we've created an LEH 100 course, which is a 1-credit freshman seminar. We are using this in place of the traditional 3-credit freshman seminar in our STEM blocks and our pre-nursing blocks, where students are also generally taking lab courses. So it's allowed us to create a block for students that has 16 credits in it instead of 15 credits. So we're automatically seeing that bit of a jump in credits starting at the first semester. In addition, we were thinking about this whole idea of credit accumulation, and we have really tried to maximize our efforts to allow our high-performing undergraduate students who are considering Lehman's graduate programs to begin enrolling in graduate coursework to earn elective credit during their final 2 semesters at Lehman. And we've probably seen a jump from about 27 to 65 students participating in this program. Of course, the benefits of it is that they're not only satisfying credits in both the undergraduate and the graduate degree, but they're able to pay undergraduate tuition for these courses as well as earn their TAP and Pell Award. We've seen departments that have viewed our work start to create interesting BA/MA structures. So in particular, our speech language pathology program has recently brought an initiative through governance that will allow their undergraduate students to earn 12 credits towards the graduate degree in speech language pathology at the undergraduate level, which will then transition directly into their graduate degree program. This is pretty unique in that they were able to secure the endorsement of their accrediting body, but also at the same time, this is a very credit-heavy graduate program, so it will help those students get through the graduate program in 2 years of full-time study. Knowing that we have a large number of students who are missing major courses, we've also started to articulate some coursework with Brigham Young University's independent study program, which has a number of upper-level electives that are offered that allow students to complete those courses at their own time. In fact, their tuition levels are cheaper than CUNY, so that we're able to refer students there to complete some major coursework, especially if they find themselves just 1 course short from graduation in the major. And we're constantly reviewing and we're formalizing the way we articulate our international baccalaureate and military credits. We are, of course, adhering to the CUNY guidelines on this. However, we feel we could do a better job at placing these courses into a student record. So this is a kind of an interesting slide here, in that one of the ways that we brought the campus together was to talk about this idea of institutionalizing credit for prior learning at our campus. And we spent a good part of year 1 of the funding period meeting with chairs, meeting with our deans and our associate deans, meeting with the heads of our various advising units at the campus to discuss really what credit for prior learning at Lehman should be. And so what we've just shared previously, we had all of the components of credit for prior learning in place, and we were building new credit for prior learning components, but we didn't really have it all written down in one place. And we didn't have rules that we would follow in terms of accepting credit for prior learning credits and the mechanism for which they were going to be processed, and if they would count as transfer credits or be viewed as a different entity upon acceptance. And we basically, pre-COVID had basically finalized a draft policy that we were going to take through governance. And we never got around to it, obviously, because COVID stopped that. But what was interesting is our policy almost mirrored exactly the policy that was passed by CUNY. So in essence, the work that we did last year has really prepared us to start integrating the CUNY policy that was passed for credit for prior learning. So it's something that we talk about as a point of pride, because I think that we wouldn't have been prepared to fully integrate the the new CUNY policy had we not had these initial discussions across the campus last year. So we've had a much easier time beginning our transition to making sure that we're not missing anything as we're implementing this policy.
So one of the things that we really have been able to maximize is how do we keep our Excelsior student scholarship? How do they maintain that scholarship? And what are the risks that could happen to students from one term to another? We shared all these CPL opportunities to these students and we employed a mixture of web-based emails and text strategies to ensure that we get participation and the communication is sent out. We also developed communication to make this awareness to all of our constituents at Lehman, our students, our faculty and staff, to help raise this type of awareness and also to encourage the students to partake in these CPL options that we are offering them. We also just sent out targeted communications to students who may benefit from these CPL options. So as I was mentioning, those that were on the verge of losing Excelsior scholarships. So for example, if a new student has only enrolled for 12 credits, we have intervened with CCIF grants options so that we could make sure that one, they continue their progress towards academic progress and maintain their eligibility. We also pulled out continuing students that by their second term, they had not reached that 30 credit criteria that is needed to maintain Excelsior scholarship. And what we did mid-semester, we reached out to a couple of students, less than 30, and provided them with these CPL options for them to go and employ these and get these, not only get certifications, which are stackable credentials, but also maintain their Excelsior scholarship, which is really key for them to continue their education. These students are selected for this scholarship, and maintenance of 30 credits per year is a must for them to continue this scholarship. We also targeted students that were missing less than 3 credits for graduation. And this is where those CPR certifications came really handy because these students, again, not only were able to get these credits awarded to them, but also attain stackable credentials. Missing liberal arts courses and students with unsatisfied open electives are really students who are missing just regular gen ed courses or elective courses. And we pull that list and offer them these CPL options. For one, it accelerated their degrees. So they could literally take a 3-credit CPL option and not have to take a class the following term, or just meet a unsatisfied open elective. And students, you know, there's so many of these options available to students that why not take this option and attain a stackable credential? Any questions?
So I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about a parallel program, not directly related, but a parallel program that we call the TAP recovery efforts at Lehman. And then I'll talk about at the end how we're going to use some of these CPL opportunities to start like a different program and idea with TAP recovery. So basically, headline is that when a student takes a course, when a student registers for a course that doesn't fit into their major, their minor, their general education, or their electives to reach the 120, that course is what we call, it's an elective that's not allowed. It's an overflow course. It's something that's above and beyond the requirements for the degree. So among many other things, TAP will only pay for students that are in 12 credits that apply to the degree. So if you're a student that's registered for 12 credits, but 3 of those credits end up being an elective not allowed, that means even if everything else is great, you're not going to get TAP. So starting in fall 19, we launched a program aimed to assist students to reclaim their TAP award. So we use data that's available to us from CUNY First, our financial aid system, and DegreeWorks to proactively identify students who are approved to receive TAP from HESC, but need some kind of intervention for it to be dispersed. So we identified within the registrar's office, there's a really great program that Yvette has created in the registrar's office called the Graduation Specialist Unit. And we identified what we called for this program, fall through auditors, to work with these students that were in danger of losing their TAP because they were registered for a course at Lehman that wasn't fitting. So what they did was they reviewed student records, they contacted them by phone or by email to give them personalized and targeted advice. So for example, you know, we have students that the fall through auditor would call and they'd say, oh yeah, my professor said that that was okay. And we're like, well, did your professor submit the substitution to let the system know it was okay so that TAP could pay for it? And the answer is no. There was a piece missing there. So the student thought everything was okay. And until they heard from this fall through auditor that they were in danger of losing their TAP, we worked with that professor to get that substitution in. Another thing that happened often was a student, you know, either they thought they had declared a certain major that these credits were going to apply to and they hadn't done it yet, or they had intended on switching majors and they hadn't done it yet. And they hadn't considered the connection between the course registration and their degree progress and their financial aid. So we invested a small amount of money into these fall through auditors, and we were able to correct 169 students to help them recover $307,000 in TAP awards, which we're really proud of. We continued that into fall 20. I don't have numbers yet for fall 20, but I'm expecting that it'll be similar because we continued this program into fall 20. So yeah, measure and assess fall 20. And then we recently realized, we learned that a student transferring from a community college with, and Yvette, chime in if I'm getting these numbers wrong. I think it's if they have 70, they need to reach 75 credits by the end of their first semester at Lehman in order to continue what we call progress and pursuit. So if a student transfers with 60 credits and let's say they register for only 12, what happens then is the next semester, they end up losing their TAP, not because of this TAP recovery effort that we did where they end up in a wrong course, but they lose it because they don't have enough credits to reach that 75. So we had this revelation sort of recently that, hey, we have all these great CPL opportunities we can offer these students. So we can identify a student in their first semester of transfer that might need, you know, three FEMA credits, or hey, let's offer them that CLEP exam much earlier than we might have to get them to that 75 so that they could keep up their progress and pursuit and maintain their TAP award, because we all know how important that is for students to continue their education, to be able to fund it. And we see students dropping off all the time when you know the financial aid didn't work out for them. So we're excited to launch that as our next part of our TAP recovery efforts.
Yeah, Chris, I just want to add that it's really important, since we are somewhat of a transfer school, that we have many students that may fall into this category, only because they're coming in with 60 credits. They've been using their TAP awards in their while they're gaining their associate degrees. And we have to ensure that they are lockstep with the progress and pursuit chart that is assigned, a TAP chart that is assigned to them, because they could easily lose TAP just because they're not enrolled in sufficient number of credits.
You know, and I would say this to this keynote this morning, this is one of those areas where student success outweighs revenue for the college. You know, Lehman has a tremendous TAP gap every year, that difference between the full financial aid package and CUNY tuition, which needs to be absorbed by the CUNY institution. But for us, it's more important for these students to get their TAP. In fact, we've invested dollars into ensuring that these students maximize their TAP in order to get their full financial aid. So it's certainly not something that we're doing to necessarily grow revenues at the college. It's more of a pure student success effort.
And just to answer the question.
So I just saw a question. Yeah, got it.
Oh, sorry. Just to answer the question on the flexibility of HESC, you know, their requirements are very strict. And we have a system that that Chris mentioned called FACTS, which literally displays if a credit is not fulfilling that student's degree requirement. And if there is nothing coming forward as a way of substitution, that student is going to lose that TAP for that term, because 12 of those credits are not applicable towards their degree. So they're very, very selective. And we've become very creative in how we can ensure that our students maintain this by offering these CPL options in midterm. Because, you know, you have a student that's already enrolled, let's say this right now for 12 credits, they can't add any more classes to their schedule because we're done. But we can offer them CPL options, and then they could acquire those credits coming back, and we could put it in that spring term or fall term, whichever term they need it for.
Yeah, and then just one more thing about the TAP recovery piece. So the thing that made that, I think, special and unique is that we were reaching out to students way before the semester started. I think before we did this program, it would be a mad scramble in the middle of September when students would say, oh my God, what happened to my TAP? They just weren't, they never ended up getting their TAP. They'd run around to 5 or 6 or 7 offices till someone figured out that they needed to swap that course. And then ultimately, you know, Yvette and her team, the amount of work they had to do at that point to do the substitutions. So what we're talking about here is in July and August, we're correcting course registration so that everything gets settled before the semester starts, which was a huge win for us.
Okay, so some lessons learned. If we're going to focus on accelerating credit accumulation, we really do need to start as early as possible. I think we're even having discussions on how to maximize accelerating credit accumulations pre-registration, you know, with students who are admitted and keeping them active during the summer, engaging in some of these activities that we know will be applicable towards their degree. Creating a culture of credit for prior learning is also important. You know, we've taken our faculty, we've taken our chairs, we've taken our deans, along with the administrative units at the college, lockstep with us in the work that we've been doing. One of the most interesting things that we were able to do because of the funding was to partner with another small funded program that we have sponsored by CALE, the Council for Adult and Experiential Learning, to do some credit for prior learning crosswalks training with a number of our faculty. And it was pretty interesting to see some of our newest, most excited faculty members, youngest faculty members in some cases, in the same room with folks who have been at the college for 50 years, literally, engaging in this conversation on how to create crosswalks from prior learning into credit-bearing opportunities for our students. And in this particular training, to identify specific courses where we could articulate this credit for prior learning into majors at the college. So it was a really interesting experience, for me at least. Maximizing need-based aid. I think the past couple of slides show that, you know, we need to maximize aid for students, but at the same time create low-cost opportunities for those students who may have run out of financial aid or simply don't need enough credits where aid would be applied. We've learned that maximizing credit upon entry is key to accelerating credit accumulation. One of the points of pride that we have at Lehman is the fact that we've seen the number of students who are bringing in credits upon entry in our freshman class grow from about 25% to well over 40% in the past couple of years. And as such, it's required us to do a complete redesign of our freshman blocks. But making sure we get those credits entered early and accurately is something that's very important for us. Just like accelerating the pathway to the undergraduate degree is important, we're increasingly realizing the need to accelerate pathways to our graduate programs. If we can get our students involved in graduate studies, we're pretty sure, we haven't assessed it formally yet, that they're going to have a higher likelihood of not only completing their undergraduate degree, but continuing into their graduate programs. The idea of reimagining our course offerings with a particular emphasis of offering 1 and 2 credit courses is important. Given the transfer nature of our student body, we're still about 75% transfer students at Lehman. We see that oftentimes students may be 1 credit or 2 credits shy in the major, and they don't need a 3-credit course because of the way courses articulate between schools. And having opportunities for students to earn 1 or 2 credits is something that we definitely need to continue to focus on. And then a focus on experiential learning. One of the things that we've learned is that when we share a CPL opportunity for students and it's directly connected to career certificates, the amount of interest skyrockets in those programs. You're going to see that in the next slide.
So Richard and Yvette, we have 5 or 6 minutes left. So yeah, let's get through the last couple slides.
All right, great. Well, all I could say is certification works. This project has been very successful in generating positive outcomes. I mean, if you look at and this is only for 1 year, if you look at what we've done with the American Red Cross First Aid, CPR certificates, you see how many students have really gained these certificates to acquire these 1 or 2 credits. One thing I wanted to add to what Richard was saying is that many of our schools right now are looking into developing 1 and 2 credits for students to easily take a course at Lehman so that they could complete their credits. We also have numbers here on, we have collaboration with Local 99. With the COVID workplace safety training. We have, as Chris mentioned, the business consultancy program where 24 students have already received that certificate. 3 students already have gone through the FEMA training, and this is something that kind of came about during COVID. And most proudly that I feel is the total number of undergraduate students. We have 65 undergraduate students that are enrolled in graduate program, which ultimately will accelerate their degrees once they get into their graduate programs.
Cass, I think we haven't looked at OSHA yet, Richard. I don't know if we've looked at OSHA, but we started looking at UN, right? There's like another.
Yeah, we're looking at some of the UN training programs.
UN training programs, but we're definitely open to, as I think you all can tell, any other options for students to put on our menu of opportunities. So some of our next steps include continuing to partner across the campus to identify new opportunities. So we just heard one, so potentially something with OSHA or other organizations. So a Stop Out campaign is being developed to target students who have stopped out over the past 5 years to encourage readmission and use some of these opportunities to accelerate their credit accumulation. The CPL evaluation is kind of housed in a few different places right now, and we're looking to consolidate that and move that all to admissions so that anybody with CPL that comes from transfer or from high school or while they're a continuing student is all dealt with in admissions. We're working on a training program for advisors about how to integrate this into sessions. I think before we really formalize this, the advisors across the campus only really thought about this as an opportunity for students who had 119 credits and needed 1 more. That was a really limited way of looking at CPL opportunities before we implemented this program. So now it's like, you know, as much as I can say to advisors, it's like, no. If you can estimate in a student's freshman or sophomore year that they could benefit from something like this, offer it to them. Like get them accumulating their credits early so that it makes sense and they're not getting to that point of the 119 and they need 1. And then we're looking at the tracking of veteran credits, and that's currently under review.
Any questions or comments or?
Jennifer had asked earlier in the chat, and I know Yvette tried to answer it in the chat about sort of what counts in terms of Excelsior. And I was wondering if you could speak to that a little bit more, because I know we also have people from like the early college high schools on. So I'm just wondering if there's anything you sort of learned about what counts for Excelsior or doesn't that might be helpful for other people on this call.
So we look for, when high school students come in, what is called a blank credit. To kind of fill the gap when a student is short. And then if they don't have a blank credit, and I'll go into what that is, we offer the CPL option. It's blank credit, of course.
If that, do you mean bank?
Bank.
Okay, yeah.
Bank, sorry, that's what I meant, bank credit. We look at their record to see if there's any College Now course that didn't come across, if there are any AP exams that they have taken and it's not in the student's CUNY First record. So we're looking at those options to ensure that any bank credit that they could bring is in their record. So if they need it to continue eligibility for Excelsior, then this is a way that we could apply that to their ongoing credit. what does this say? Has this worked? Did I answer the question?
If I can just ask for clarification, I thought that Excelsior was only for credit that was earned at the college. So that's not true. It can be college that's brought in. I mean, credits that are brought in.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's,
Okay.
let's
Great.
call that bank for I'm sorry, for freshmen, it's bank credits. And we look at those different options. Yes.
Yeah, Jennifer, it's the 30 per year is the really overall rule for Excelsior. So however you get there, you can use these bank credits to reach it.
Great. That's wonderful. Thanks.
There's a question about, has this work added significant cost for your department over the long term, or are you primarily working differently? I think the funding has allowed us and will allow us to create a significant foundation for this effort. I think moving forward, the only to be perfectly honest, we'd probably be able to continue this once the foundation is built with the work of one college assistant to manage the flow of posting credits as we continue in our normal training efforts to continue to remind people and update people on these opportunities and continue to collaborate on new opportunities as part of our day-to-day functions.
Yeah, we work strategically with lists so that, you know, our departments are not so looking at every student. We're very strategic with our outreaches so that we know who we're contacting and exactly what is it that they need. And those are the CPL options that we offer them. So again, for a student who's missing 3 credits in their 30 credit Excelsior required year, that is a great option. We offer them, as I mentioned, CPR. We could offer them to, again, credits, and I'm a fan of stackable credentials because they take this with them. They're getting the college credit, but they're also getting a certification for any of the different options that we offer. So it's really, I feel, a win-win for students if they are in need in the CPL options, but if not, then we offer them as they move along, just so we monitor them and we offer them options as they move along. So we don't have many Excelsior, but that cohort of students is growing at Lehman.
Yep, and Sheree, so some certificates are free. So some of those COVID certificates that we give credit for when they take all 3 are free for students. And we also, like our ACE program, for example, has purchased some vouchers to pay for students to take CLEP, but even taking the CLEP, I think it's $95. It's relatively affordable for students. And CAS, we have, so for fall 19, I have exact numbers. We have 169 students that we helped recover TAP for $307,000 in TAP that they would have otherwise been unawarded had we not intervened. For fall 20, I don't have it yet. And then the other thing that I have a hard time quantifying it, but I know it's there, is the amount of staff time that was saved by intervening proactively with these students and not having 6 or 7 people but spend so much time trying to figure something out when we just deal with it up front. And then the other piece of it is, there are so many more students that could benefit from that kind of outreach, but just because we don't have the time, resources, money, staff to do it, we focus on the narrow TAP recovery part of it. But we're talking hundreds more students that end up, registering for classes once they transfer or once they start that don't count, but we just don't have enough time. So we focus on the TAP recovery piece.
I just want to add, as the senior registrar, that first week of classes, our lines are all over the place. And in my office, in my unit, I also have TAP is directly reports to me. So that line would be really long. That first year that we started this TAP recovery, I have to say the long lines were gone. It really solidifies what Chris was saying of being proactive. These students were not going crazy that first week trying to, 1, fix their aid, 2, if they needed to swap a class, what class is available the first week of classes? So really being so proactive with them has eliminated, I have to say, the lines that I had in my office. And to me, that is just a great plus for not only the students, but for the staff who at certain times really need a small break or not see so many students.
Thank you guys so much. That's like, I feel like such a perfect, amazing note to wrap your session on. Thank you, Chris, Richard, Yvette. Thank you everyone for participating and sending really thoughtful questions into our chat. I just dropped the Zoom link. So if you need help navigating back into the main room, that should work. We'll send out a recording and any resources from this session and all the other sessions. So if you missed anything, we will provide that after the event, and we will get restarted in the main room definitely by 11:20. So you have a couple minutes if you need to grab your water cup or pace your apartment for a second, stretch, and I'll see you back over there in a couple minutes. Thank you guys.
Bye.
Thanks everyone.